Hi everyone, it's Tristan from Crafting Worlds. This review is going to take on a little bit of a different format because I feel as though there is an elephant in the room that needs to be addressed before I actually review the keyboard at hand. What keyboard is that? It's the Lofree Flow V2. Comes in this black, comes in this white, and here it is without the box. Now, I know what you're already thinking. What is this? And you're not alone. Before I get too much into my moral dilemma here, let's look at what the internet thinks. If we go to the Lofree Reddit, which, you know, Reddit can be pretty nasty, but not a lack of symmetry. Would have preferred no indicator light. Sticking with my Flow 1. Weird extended side. Looks weird. Wide touch bar. Yeah, no. This aesthetic kills it for me. Why the empty space on the right? Eats up space where you'd use your mouse. This is the common denominator. It's using up space where your mouse is. So much desk real estate lost. Ridiculous design. What's the point? Ugly, so close to being perfect, yet not. The extended right bezel to the touch bar is a deal breaker. I mean, it kind of goes on. And if you go and you look at their Instagram posts, you've got the same stuff. But like Lofree's like, design is our signature, right? And usually it is. The Lofree version 1 was really good. And the Lofree Lite was good. But like, even this person, it's a bad idea to put the extra space on the right. Even the USB port. Yeah, so if you didn't see when I held this up, not only is this extended, by the way, I broke my nail and I had to put nail polish on it. Otherwise, it would continue to go in and it's in a bad place. I think it looks cool, but either way, if you were wondering. So this is the volume and it goes in weird increments of 6. Sometimes 4, depending on how fast you go. Just to give you an idea of what a roller wheel does, it's normally like 2. So it's not very precise. Second, there's your USB, and that's the top of it. So your USB has to be at a right angle, or it'll do this. And let me show you. Here it is on the desk, and so here it is with this, and it's already in my way, like it's already in my mouse way, right? And then the other thing is that here's where you hold your mouse, right? And if you look at this, that touches the bar. Now you can apparently lock the volume, but why would you lock a functionality of your keyboard that is taking up this much space? If you're going to make something that takes up this much space, why would I want to lock it and lose the functionality? All it took was one person to look at this from the community and tell them it should go over here or it should go up here. And anyway, so yeah, you're going to hit that. Now let's show you what happens if I do it without the right angle. So let's say you have your favorite cable. I mean, that's even worse. Like you're gonna, it's gonna, it literally makes your, like, it makes your mouse click if you like hit it here. Look, I'm like, my mouse is clicking. So, I mean, if we look at some more, we see kind of the reactions people are giving this. This is a miss, lack of symmetry, you know, the touch bar on the right, you know, nobody asked for it. And I think, this is my opinion, is that I think Lofree thought this looks really nice in pictures. And it does. It looks fantastic. Look at the breakdown of that. It looks great. But it doesn't work. Like, Lofree had the chance to make the perfect, absolutely best low-profile keyboard on the market. Let's put an extra inch of nothing on the edge of the board so it takes up more space. I mean, he's got it right. Having a margin part on the right is so unpractical. That everybody's got it right. And so it took 3 seconds for anybody to figure this out. All across their Facebook, smooth wins. Sure, it looks really nice, but then that chin shouldn't exist. All of the comments are like, no, no, no. Why? This is my dilemma. My dilemma is that Lofree did something different, right? They tried to be innovative, and I give them a lot of credit for that. You can't knock them for trying something new. That's great. But the problem is that LoFree does Kickstarters. And when you're doing a Kickstarter, you're handing off the responsibility of your project to the consumer. You, as the manufacturer, are not going to lose if your Kickstarter fails, because then you don't have to manufacture. So all of the pressure and all of the onus is now on you, the buyers. And this is one of those situations where I feel as though that blind brand loyalty, right, that I talk about a lot, where someone just buys it because they like the company and they're like, well, it's the version 2, it's got to be good. Even though like you can visually see this is not better than their Flow. That's an inch. So you've got an extra inch on the side. And then let's take their Lite. Same thing, about an inch. And there's the volume wheel. So they just made this a little bit higher, which was great. And the indicator light. So it can be done. It could have been a touch, probably could have been the touch thing on the top. This was a great board, great lighting. This had the feet. It just wasn't metal. And so I feel like they could have done this, but they put it here. Even just moving this over here would change the outcome, right? It would have changed how people perceive this board. But like, again, if you take, let's say, a full-size Apple keyboard, which I feel as though this is the #1 keyboard people are coming from to go to LoFree, because they're like, I really like my Apple keyboard, but I want something that sounds fantastic. And LoFree's sound is fantastic. This is only an inch and like a third longer than that because of that chin. So why not fully extend the 100 keys one and give us a nice layout like this so it's not all scrunched? And then you would have had more room for battery. You would have had more room for, top, buttons or whatever, or volume or indicator lights. You would have had a lot more room to play with, and you would have had a really full-size keyboard. I just did it right now as I moved my keyboard forward, this is a common way to move your keyboard forward, is like this. Guess what I am adjusting? The volume on my computer. I just boosted it up to 100 by accident when I was doing that. So once again, this being on the right-hand side is just the most impractical thing I have ever seen in my time reviewing keyboards. I've seen some interesting designs, and this one really takes the cake in terms of like, why? Why did you do that? So I'm having the moral dilemma because of the Kickstarter. The fact that this shifts the responsibility of the product onto the consumer is my moral dilemma. I have a very hard time saying I'm going to make a review for this and suggest that you buy this at the end when the company doesn't believe in their product enough to not run a Kickstarter. LoFree is big enough at this point to not have to run a Kickstarter. Kickstarter is just a hype builder for them at this point. And I feel as though because of that hype builder, none of this got seen right away. So instead, what you saw, let's go to their Instagram real quick, was this. Little tiny glimpses of what it could be. You didn't see the full keyboard. You didn't know what that was on the right. You weren't really sure what that was. Like there was things that just gave it, like it was more for marketing than it was for functionality. It was the form over function here. And there's just all this marketing. And so they're hyping you. Look, launching on Kickstarter soon, right? And so that hype alone is like, that feels like the only reason why they took that design choice, because visually, yes, it looks absolutely beautiful. The keyboard looks beautiful, but the functionality gets lost. And I'm not the only person that thinks this. You can go into their Discord or Facebook or Instagram, and you can just scroll through the comments, and everybody's like, why? This is in the mouse section. This is not a good idea. This is not a great purpose. And had they just asked their users, what do you want with the Flow version 2? I think they would have heard a lot of feedback on this right away, instead of surprise Kickstarter. And that's my problem with the Kickstarter is it was this, surprise. It had to be hidden. It had to be secretive instead of it's a keyboard. It's something you're going to have to live with for quite a while. And it's going to be expensive for a keyboard that you're going to keep for a long time. That's nearly $200. Shouldn't it be what you want it to be nearly exactly? And this is one of those situations where I truly believe that it's my job as a reviewer to bring this stuff up and say, hey, I think you should tell Lofree with your wallet, this is my feedback. Because your feedback that has been given to them, and I've seen it in the Discord a lot, we take your feedback into consideration, blah, blah, blah. If they did, there would be a full-size 0 on this. The second thing would have been, not putting more space over here in the mouse area. And so, unfortunately, I feel like they're going to have a successful Kickstarter just because people are crazy and Kickstarters make people froth at the mouth. It's almost like gambling.
I promise you, you won't regret.
So you're going out of business, huh?
No. It's just a sign. It's good for business.
And I really would love to see people say, no, Lofree, this was not what we wanted. This is not what we asked for. And put our money where our mouth is and not buy it. Because all they had to do was ask the community or any of the reviewers. And immediately we would have said, what is this? Why? Why did you not think about a mouse hand hitting this? Oh, you can lock it. Why would I want to turn off the functionality of the keyboard? Did you not think about the cable coming out? Can't turn that off. You're locked into using this in a very specific way instead of the keyboard working for you just because it looks cool, just because it has like a cool look to it. And that to me is like really unacceptable. So now that that's out of the way and Lofree will maybe never work with me again, I just felt it was necessary, especially after you had the Flow Lite, which was a great board, wonderful LEDs, very bright, lovely little volume, connectivity that you wanted, light. And then also the Flow 1 had really good tactile feedback, had a really nice aluminum case, was small, could go on top of your laptop, typed really well. And then this happens, which is essentially the size of a full-size keyboard. So why not just do it? End of the day, it's your money. It's a Kickstarter, so you're taking the risks, not Lofree. And so you have to make that decision. Do you want to give them feedback? Because this is the only chance you get to give them the right feedback by not kickstarting this. Or do you just want their newest and greatest thing? And that's really your choice. But I really would have felt out of place if I said that this wasn't completely neglecting what the community wants and not listening to feedback whatsoever from the Flow and the Flow Lite. So I hope that they redesign it. I hope that they scrap it. I hope that it just doesn't come to fruition, because I feel like they need to understand that feedback is important and they need to get it before they start teasing a Kickstarter where you're taking on all the responsibility for their company. It's not fair. It's not fair to you as consumers. And it's not fair as reviewers that we should have to review these things and just be like, oh yeah, well, it's great. If every reviewer doesn't say something about this, I'd be amazed. I'd be amazed if every reviewer doesn't say, this is wrong. This doesn't make sense. You can't even adjust it in VIA. So why does it exist? Companies work for you. You don't work for companies. That being said, for those of you who still like the design for some reason, I will now go into a full review of the keys, the keycaps, the functions, the sound tests, and the keyboard in general. But know that I truly believe this is one of those moments where you as a consumer need to tell the company, I'm sorry, you didn't listen to our feedback, therefore we're not buying your product. All right, so let's actually review the keyboard now. I know that was very long and some of you might tune out, but I felt like it really needed the time. So let's take a look at the actual keyboards. First of all, you have your tactile. You can only get the black switches with the tactile switches, and you can only get the white version with the linear switches. So pick accordingly. It's the same. They did the same thing with their Lofree 1. That was also feedback that people wanted. They said, hey, we would love it if we could pick the keycap color and also the switch that goes with it. But that, again, feedback that was not heard. The RGB is fantastic. You can turn it off. If your number lock is on and you have the colors off, it will stay lit up. Same with caps lock. You'll see a little dot there. And then you can turn the volume back up. Although it's nearly impossible to see these switches when the lights are not on. You're seeing pretty much what my eyes see. Very, very hard. So without those up, I think it's here. Yeah, there we go. Now it looks fantastic. Beautiful. Lovely, lovely LEDs. Very bright. Really well done. Very, very nice looking. They did take some feedback. I can't say they didn't take all the feedback. So the first bit of feedback that they took was the design of the keys. They made them a little bit more rounded. And if you look here, see, they kind of formed your fingers a little bit better. And they made them, a little bit more resilient to wearing out. And they used a different, PBT shot. And that's cool. So that looks really nice. They also listened to when people said that this Lofree Flow version 1, the tactile version, the tactile feels really nice, right? But it's a very heavy switch. Also on their linear, it was a very heavy switch, and they actually lightened it up for the Lite. And so they did listen, and they made the tactile switches on the Lofree Flow version 2 a 40 gram tactile versus, I believe, like a 55. Now, they might have overcompensated a little bit because I find that it's very hard to feel the tactile bump, especially if you're typing quickly. It's there. It's definitely something you can feel, but because they're low profile, like the switches themselves are low profile, you're not traveling that far, and it's definitely not as prominent as the first version. And I feel like if I were to pick between these two, I would go with the linear because it pretty much feels the same. There's a tiny bit of resistance. It almost feels like this is just a heavier switch and this is a lighter switch versus a tactile versus a linear. And so that's something you should keep in mind. Also, on the white version, the keys are just way more legible. And when you turn down the brightness, you can still see those legends quite well. So yes, there are a couple things that I would, I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I don't know if they could have maybe made this so that they're like a white color that light shines through, but either way, without the LEDs on, these are not visible, as you saw. And the sound on both of them is quite enjoyable, just like all Lofree. I just did it right now as I moved my keyboard forward, this is a common way to move your keyboard forward, is like this. Guess what I am adjusting? The volume on my computer. I just boosted it up to 100 by accident when I was doing that. So once again, this being on the right-hand side is just the most impractical thing I have ever seen in my time reviewing keyboards. I've seen some interesting designs, and this one really takes the cake in terms of like, why? Why did you do that? Until we go to the sound test, we're just going to have the white one on here. Okay. So yeah, here's the white one. Now this is Mac and Windows compatible. You just hit Function N for going to Windows mode. It does come with the Mac keys already installed. So it comes with both keycaps. I'll show you what's in the box real quick. So it comes in the box with recyclable paper, which was actually very nice. So very good there. It comes with a nice braided cable with the right angle. But I decided to put my own since I have one that matches the white. It comes with the extra keycaps if you have Mac or Windows. Comes with the dongle. I didn't see any place to put the dongle, so I think that that is just SOL, which kind of sucks because if you remember on the Lite, they designed a place to put the dongle, which was right here, but it didn't hold it enough, and so it often falls out, which is actually what has happened here, and I don't even know where that is, so that's unfortunate. So that's it. That's all that comes in the box. Nothing crazy, but, you know, simple like LoFree likes to be in terms of, you know, minimalistic design, which is appreciated, to be honest. Now, if we turn it up here, as you can see, there's nothing on the top. There's nothing on this side, nothing on the bottom. And then there's the infamous touch bar and USB. Now, on the bottom, let's take a look. Okay, so this is where you get your feet. And that's pretty cool, actually, the way that they come out this way. And they seem to hold pretty well because they're on a pretty harsh angle there. So once you put this down and then you do the like test, it doesn't go under. It stays, which is great. So I'm happy with the feet. I think it's a nice place to put them. You really need to, with the 100%, line them up properly if you're going to put this on your laptop. But because of this, I don't think you're going to be getting this to put on top of a laptop. This is a desktop. Unless you get the 86 or the 64 percentile or whatever it is. Yeah, it does have a little rubber here to hold it to your desk. And then under here is the toggle for Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and USB. It is VIA compatible, so we can take a look at that real quick. So we can authorize the device. There it is. And here we go. So you get all of the VIA compatibility, medium, macros, layers, lighting, custom, everything that's in VIA. Anybody that likes VIA, this is like the go-to. You cannot do anything with the touch bar or the Lite. So that's something to keep in mind. Just so you know, the keyboard only does white LEDs. You can't, not RGB. So this is what you're stuck with. I think it looks great in terms of that visual minus this again. Let's also take a look real quick at their briefing. So here's the 68 version. Here's the 84 and the 100 keys. So as you can see, they do shrink a little bit, but once again, that lip on all of them, they improved the key feel and surface texture. It's true. It's much smoother. They do feel really nice. It looks very nice. The key mapping feature, I mean, it's VIA, so they didn't have VIA before, so I guess, yes, they could say that. The Keycap upgrade, they did higher purity PBT, but anyway, the PBTs are very nice. They are very, very well made. They look great. They are visually fantastic. The switches, also very good. The new light diffusers in the switches, fantastic. Look at this design here. Like, it's really, really well done. And they have 3 different switches, actually. They have, so here's the linear one that I have, right? It's 40. And then there's the tactile, which I said they dropped that from like 55 so that it's not going to fatigue you, but I feel like they dropped it just a little bit too much. A 48 maybe, or a 45, or maybe even a 50 would have been good with these current switches. Check this out. The original tactile was 45 grams and the original linear was 50 grams. Yeah, so they actually dropped it quite a lot. So that's probably why you don't feel the tactility in the new board. So yeah, that's crazy to me, actually. They went 40 on both. I was wondering why this was, I was getting a little bit more typos on this. So this is the Flow version 1. And so that's crazy. The new switches, though, let the light really shine through and they have a really nice look. They are, again, the Kale design. So these are proprietary to LoFree. So you will need to buy LoFree switches. And then there's that touch switch, which we already went into. And VIA support. And then refined angles, blah, 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 blah. So yeah, so you can just see the difference between the Flow 1 and 2 is basically that touch bar on the right, VIA support and QMK, and the angle. And then the different, switches and the different keycaps. I guess the surface as well. yeah, I guess this one would look smoother, but honestly, it's not that noticeable. Yeah, I would just go with the Flow one if you don't like. Yeah, I really am having trouble recommending this board. So here's the Kickstarter. And it's going to be $89 for the 68 keys, $99 for the 84, and $109 during the Kickstarter. And you cannot pick your layout. So if you want extra keycaps, it's going to cost you more. And then when it goes live, it's $209, $199, and $189. Now, if we were to look at the Flow, yeah, so the Flow 100 Lofree, the original, was $169. So this is more expensive than that. And that kind of blows my mind too. So when this gets out of Kickstarter, you're going to be paying a lot more, like a lot more. And I don't know, like especially for the 84 keys, $199. And the 84 keys was $159, $139 on sale right now. Like that's crazy. There's the switches, as you can see, really, really, really well done on the switches, to be honest. Like they really did a good job. Like these are the old switches. These are the new ones. Like really nice job to help disperse the light and just make a more solid casing. Like it looks really good. And there's the different, you know, types of switches. But yeah, you cannot choose your keycaps and your switch type. So it's black for tactile and white for linear. And yeah, there's the touch bar, but it jumps up in integrals of 6. So I don't get it. Oh, you can also adjust your brightness. I forgot about that. You can adjust your brightness by holding down function and this bar, and it'll do the brightness of your monitor, but only if you're on a laptop. It won't work with like a desktop monitor. Battery life. Let's see here. Yeah. Oh, compared to the 2000 on the Flow, it's got a 3000 milliamp battery, but at the cost of what? Basically that entire lip on the right side. There's your extra battery. I don't know. I'm not happy with what they're doing here. If you want like all the prices and stuff, there they are. Feel free to screenshot that and look at it at your own convenience. So one of the other things that you can hear on the sound test is that the spacebar does have some ping and is not properly lubed on both sides. So on both the linear and the tactile, more so on the tactile, you do get spacebar ping. I don't know exactly how you could take this. I mean, I'm sure you could, but man, that would be a pain in the butt. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 screws. So taking that apart would probably not be in your best interest. Just understand that you might get a little bit of a spacebar ping. The stabilizers on the side are fine. Yeah, as you can hear, they sound nice. They look nice. the keycaps are improved. The overall machining is improved. The battery capacity is improved. The feet are improved. But then you have the really bad decision of putting the USB on the right and that touch bar on the right and that lip on the right. And you just have some weird choices, and the pricing is quite different and way more expensive. This is a tough one, and I really hope that I've helped you to make a decision on this. Again, I really think it's important that companies understand that if they're going to shift the responsibility onto the consumer through a Kickstarter, that their product better be amazing. And instead of making a Kickstarter based off of surprise, maybe taking and considering the feedback that's been given over the years since the Flow Lite, and now the Flow version 2, using that feedback instead of giving us whatever they gave us here. Some things were considered, like the switches being a little bit lighter, but you can't customize the switches and the keycaps. A lot of things were just ignored. That was feedback. And I think it was because it looks visually beautiful, actually, on a desk. But function will always triumph form when it comes to everyday use, and especially at a marked up price. Anyway, that's it. That's all I got for you guys. You already know my pros and cons on this. If you liked the video, like. If you disliked it, thumbs twice. Subscribe, hit the bell icon for notifications. And as always, I will see you all in the next video. Thanks for watching.